um, share this afternoon. uh, we, especially, the teachers of Kriya Sharir and students of Kriya Sharir, we often ignore certain important aspects of our subject. And ontology and epistemology are the two such important aspects that we often either do not teach or do not take them seriously. But actually, I thought of covering these two topics because I think that to understand Ayurveda, to understand especially the Kriya Sharir, it is very important to understand the frameworks of ontology and epistemology in Ayurveda. Now, those who might be wondering what are these terms, ontology and epistemology, right? I'll be simplifying these terms for you. They're not something very new. I will, discuss as and when the, the discussion progresses. I'll be giving you more information as and when required, right? So, hope my audio is clear and the slides are visible, right? Shall I continue?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay, sure. So there are two words, ontology and epistemology, right? So ontology is the study of reality that results in knowledge. So under ontology, we study the things that we think exist, right? Whatever that exists, whatever that is real, that is studied under ontology. And epistemology means the way of constructing knowledge, the study of knowledge. How do we know what we think we know? Right? The justification, reasoning, all this comes under logic, inference, all these, methods of validating or judging the knowledge claims to be true is covered under epistemology. So ontology is whatever exists, right? Whatever that can be studied, whatever that can be thought of, right? All that comes under ontology. And how do we justify what we think we know? Because what we think we know, this is the phrase that is very important. Because no human knowledge is final. All human knowledge is fallible. No human knowledge is complete, final, right? Every knowledge system, it keeps on evolving, right? And keeps on refined, keeps on getting falsified. So all human knowledge is fallible. This is the fundamental principle that we have to bear in mind, right? So that's why I use the term or phrase, what we think we know, right? Which may not be true, which may be wrong. Whatever we know today may be proven to be wrong, maybe in next 20 years, 30 years or so. So that is the premises based on which my entire talk will be framed. So yes, ontology talks about whatever that exists, and also how to classify these things that exist. This is covered under ontology. How do we classify whatever that exists, whatever we think that exists? Again, several things may exist, but we may not be thinking that such things exist, or certain things we may be thinking that they may be existing, but actually in reality they may not be existing. So ontology is concerned with the reality, or certain things that we think exist, that we consider to be existing, right? So a fish, a butterfly, a snake, tree, right? They are all identified as distinct kinds of organisms, right? We observe that butterflies have wings, 2 pairs of wings, 6 legs, right? Snakes have no limbs. Fish live in aquatic environments. Trees are non-animal organisms with roots and limbs. So all this, we describe these features of individual entities. And then we form ontological categories: animals versus plants, vertebrates versus invertebrates, insects versus reptiles versus fish, living versus non-living, has red blood cells versus no red blood cells. Right? So this is how we again classify everything that we think exists. So this is also an act that is studied under ontology, right? So ontology concerns with the listing or whatever that exists, and also classifying, the act of classifying whatever we think exists. This is ontology, right? See, if you get into the depth of these things, these words might look very superficial, very easy to understand, but think deeply. For example, butterfly exists. Right? Butterflies exist. We have seen them. Do insects exist? Do insects exist? See, insects is a class that we have created, that we have conceived, that we have described. As such, insects is something that doesn't exist in reality. But we consider that insects exist because we have seen the members of this category to be existing. Right? Maybe butterflies, maybe some other insects. Right? All such members of this category, they exist. And how we define this category? Because, all those creatures that have 2 pairs of wings, compound eyes, and 6 legs, they are defined as insects. This is how we define something, right? And this is also a part of ontology. How do we classify? Now, what is epistemology? How do we justify what we classify? How do we justify this classification? There comes the reasoning. We have seen thousands of insects, different creatures. All those creatures had these 3 features: 2 pairs of wings, 2 compound eyes, and 6 legs. So we have seen hundreds and thousands and millions of such creatures. Every such creature fell under the category of insect. Hence, we assume that the next creature that fulfills these 3 characteristics features, right? These 3 criteria will also be an insect. Right? We hope that tomorrow we won't see a cat that has got 2 pairs of wings, compound eyes, and 6 legs. Right? We don't expect to see a cat with these features, right? We expect that any creature that has these criteria, that fulfills these criteria, will also be an insect. So this is how we judge. So this justification, right? This reasoning, that comes under epistemology. But classificatory act as such is considered under ontology, right? So it is concerned with the nature of reality. What exists? Asks questions such as, what is the nature of being? What entities exist? How can they be categorized? So this is all that is considered under ontology. It provides assumptions about what is real knowledge, real and knowable in the world. So whatever that can be conceived, that whatever that can be spoken of, whatever that can be studied, all that is a part of ontology. Got it? So now there are different kinds of ontologies that exist or that we consider, right? Depending on the context and depending on the stream of the knowledge. Again, for different streams, there are different ontologies. So the things that we consider to be existing may not exist for everyone, for every stream of knowledge. For example, religion considers God to be existing. Science does not consider God to be existing. So under science ontology, God is not admitted. Under religion ontology, God is admitted. This is one example, right? So let us see how do we classify the ontological entities, right? So simplest is material entities, concrete entities that we can see, touch, hear, smell, and all that. So physical, tangible things that exist independently. A butterfly, an RBC, a pen, right? So a metal, iron ball, right? All the rubber ball, cricket bat, everything. These are all material entities. They exist in the world, right? So this is one category. This is just one category of ontological entities. This is something that is important for us to understand. Then there are some categories or universals. As I said, insects is a group. Insects as such, you cannot touch or see the group insect. You can touch or see the members of the group insect, right? So category as such is not perceivable. It is postulated, right? Similarly, hormones. Hormones is a category of heterogeneous substances. There may be peptide hormones like insulin. There may be steroid hormones like androgens, or there may be amino acid derivatives like thyroxine, right? Or norepinephrine. So all these are different, right? In their structure, in their chemical composition, they are different. But we have devised a definition of hormone. So we have defined what a hormone is. So it is a chemical messenger that is secreted by a particular specialized cell, and usually it is secreted into the bloodstream, and then it travels across the bloodstream and reaches the target tissue or target cells, and then it acts on those target cells. So that is how we have defined hormones. So hormone as such cannot be, is not a single entity. It is a group. So these are called universals or categories. So under hormones, we have maybe hundreds of hormones or hundreds of structures or molecules. But hormones as such is a category, right? Then comes events. Events also are considered under ontology. Time-bound happenings. For example, fertilization. This is an event that happens, right? Maybe out of Africa immigration. That happened maybe 60,000 years ago, right? So that is an event that we think that it actually took place. Okay? Or maybe a solar eclipse is an event. So we study these events. That's why we admit them under ontology, right? Then there are some processes which can be studied, which can be conceived, which can be understood, which can be admitted into the ontological framework. For example, photosynthesis is a process. Digestion is a process. Homeostasis is a process. So it may be one process or multiple processes included. So digestion is a process where fats, carbohydrates, and proteins are digested, chemically digested. So this is a process. We studied digestion, right? In human physiology, we study digestion. In plant physiology, we study photosynthesis, right? So these processes are also included under ontology. So ontology is a term that includes multiple things, right? It is not simply a butterfly or cat or cow, okay? So it includes so many things, including events, categories, processes, even relationships. I mean, the relations, right? Concrete relations, connections that exist between entities, like gene-protein relationship, right? Such relationships are also studied under ontology, right? Then properties and qualities, they are also studied under ontology. Features or attributes of entities, for example, color of iris, height of an individual. These are all properties, right? So even properties are studied under the big category called ontology, right? Then comes something that is very interesting. For example, number 2, number 3, number 4, or maybe pi. Do these numbers exist? Are they real? So numbers we consider to be existing because they help us in constructing knowledge, right? So these numbers in mathematical sciences, these numbers, even in science, these numbers are considered to be the ontological entities. They are thought to exist, though they're not material entities. They're simply ideas. A triangle in Euclid's, in terms of Euclid's ideas, even a dot, right, or point or line cannot exist in reality. It can exist only in ideas, because point is dimensionless. There is no width, there is no breadth, there is no depth, there is no volume. a point is defined as something that doesn't have any dimension. So what is a line? Line should also be a dimensionless entity, a series of points, right, arranged in series, that forms a line. So line is also imaginary. It cannot exist, because as soon as you draw a line and then you observe it under maybe microscope or maybe magnifying glass, you can see that there are dimensions. There is width, there is breadth, and even if you microscopically examine it, you will find the molecules of ink. So there it may be a cylinder actually, right? It may be having volume as well in micro units, whatever, nano units or whatever. But still, so whenever we draw a line on paper, that is not what Euclid suggested, right? It is what we represent. The ideas of Euclid are represented on paper. But as per Euclid's imagination, line, triangle, dot, or point, they do not actually exist, but they are postulated. So such postulated entities also are considered as ontological entities. Got it? Now, social or institutional entities, money, does it exist? Or 100 rupee bill, does it exist? It exists, right? But is it a matter to be studied in science, or is it a matter to be studied in social science? For social sciences, especially for economics, money is something that is very essential, right? They study money. It is a mutual consent, agreement. Money is a concept that has been derived based on mutual consent, right? So this money exists through the collective human agreement or institutions. Reserve Bank of India issues rupee notes. So 1 rupee is equal to 100 paisa. So these are all conventions that we have developed. So in the universe as such, the money doesn't exist, but we have created such entities that exist. So we study such entities. These entities are, we are studyable, right? We can study them. That is why we conceive, or we consider them to be existing. That's why they are included under ontology. Fictional entities in Mahabharata or Ramayana, you have Ravana, Kumbhakarna, or maybe even in physics, thought experiment, Schrodinger's cat. So these are not actually existing entities, but they are characters, imagination or fictional characters, right? So we think that we consider them to be existing. We write so many stories and novels based on Ravana or Rama or whatever, fictional mythological characters. So we think that they exist. So they are admitted into ontological framework. May not be in science, but in some other, maybe literature or history or culture. So these streams of sciences, they study these entities, right? They consider them to be ontological entities. So from stream to stream, from one stream of knowledge to another stream of knowledge, the ontological entities that are admitted, they could be different. Similarly, possible entities, hypothetical or potential existence, like a habitable planet not yet discovered, maybe somewhere outside the solar system, who knows? So we consider that this is a possibility. So we keep searching for such extraterrestrial life. For example, we send satellites and we send some human voices, recorded voices, so that maybe one day somebody might, alien might understand what we are trying to say. So these are all entities that are considered to be possibilities. That's why we consider them to be existing or possible existing, right? Possibly existing. So similarly, virtual or informational entities, for example, a PDF file on the laptop or a PowerPoint presentation on the laptop. Does it exist? It exists. Can we touch? Can we see? Yes. When it is open, we can see. Can we touch? Can we feel? Right? Can we measure it? So, but still we consider that this to be existing. So computer scientists, they consider these entities to be existing. So they admit, these entities into their ontological framework, right? So similarly, spiritual or metaphysical entities like God, angel, demon, devil, soul, All these are entities which are admitted as ontologies for religion or metaphysics, but not in science. Hope I'm clear till now, right? For different streams of knowledge, different ontological entities are admitted, right? So across domains, yes, philosophy, for example. For philosophy, ontology and epistemology, both of them are ontology, because philosophy can study what is epistemology, what is ontology, right? The concept of ontology itself may be an ontological entity for philosophy. The concept of epistemology itself could be an ontological entity for philosophy, because it studies what is knowledge system, what is knowable, right? Or maybe what is event, what is an event, what is a category, what is a substance. So the most general things are considered or studied under philosophy. So it admits material, abstract, social, and even metaphysical entities, right? Then comes religion. Religion admits entities that transcend empirical verification, as I suggested, right? God, angels, souls. So these are ontologically real within a theological framework. Within a theological framework, they are real, but are not admitted into scientific ontology. Science does not admit these entities. There's a difference, right? So religion may admit, but science may not admit. So all streams may not admit each ontology. So in sciences, the ontologies are restricted to empirically testable or theoretically inferable entities. For example, particles, genes, gravity, ecosystem, even black hole. So these are all studied under physics or sciences. Even gravity is ontological entity, though we cannot see it, but we can infer it. You can measure, right? You can predict by throwing maybe an iron ball, 100 kilograms of iron ball from a height of maybe 300 meters. And you can precisely calculate how much time it will take for the ball to fall or touch the ground. Got it? So such predictions, predictability or inferability, measurability is an important aspect when it comes to scientific ontology, right? So in science, empirically testable or predictable or inferable entities, though they may not be actually physically existing substances, they are admitted as ontology. For example, see genes. When Gregor Mendel postulated the presence of genes, he did not have any idea about the structure of DNA or RNA and such. No other details were known to him. Still, science admitted the concept of gene, because gene was able to explain the inheritance. The pattern of inheritance was able to be explained, right, by only through a concept called gene. No other concept was there to explain this Mendelian inheritance. So if certain entity, though it may not be real, see, at that point of time, when Gregor Mendel suggested the existence of genes, for him it was a postulated entity. It was not a real entity. And now we know that it is real. We have redefined the genes. In original concept of, as per Gregor Mendel, gene is simply an idea, a postulated entity. It was not real. But now we have, over the years, right, we have redefined the concept, and now we say that, okay, even today the definition of gene is controversial. You don't have a single completely satisfactory definition of gene. It keeps varying from context to context, from author to author, and so on. So even postulated entities, right, may be admitted into science ontology if they have predictive power or explanatory power, right? If they can explain something or if they can predict something, such ontological entities are admitted, right? Now comes something very important: interoperability within science. So ontological entities that are admitted in physics should be also equally understandable with similar, in a similar way by physics, biology, chemistry also, right? Gravity in physics should mean the same in biology also. We study the effect of gravity on blood pressure, right? In human physiology. For us, the concept of gravity is same as that for a physicist, right? For a physicist, the concept of gravity is same as that for a biologist. So this is called interoperability. The ontological entities should be same, should be interoperable within the different, across the different disciplines, right? For example, force. Gravity is a fundamental force in physics. In biology, it influences blood circulation, plant growth, and animal physiology, right? Energy in physics defined as capacity to do work. In chemistry, as enthalpy or free energy. In biology, it is ATP and metabolic flow. Right? Despite contextual differences, the concept is interoperable. The energy means the same thing across the disciplines. DNA, studied in molecular biology, genetics, medicine, and bioinformatics. Always it is the same entity. DNA means the same thing for all different disciplines. Right? So far, hope I'm clear, right? Why interoperability matters in science? This interoperability ensures that explanations across disciplines are compatible, right? So because physics underlies chemistry and chemistry underlies biology, and this interoperability prevents contradictory claims about same entity, right? For example, gravity or DNA cannot be real in one science and fictional in another, right? And this interoperability facilitates cross-disciplinary integration, system biology, biophysics, physical chemistry, and so on. Now, let us pause for a while. Let us pause for a while and let us think of what ontological entities does Ayurveda admit. What ontological entities does Ayurveda admit? Panchamabhuta, Tridosha, Agni, Ojas, Prana, Dhatu, Mala. Right. These are the entities that are considered as real in Ayurveda. They are thought to exist. That's why they are manipulated using therapies, or they have got causal power. Vata can lead to symptoms because of Vata vritti. Pitta can lead to Pitta vritti symptoms, and so on. Right. So that is why all these ontological entities are, all these entities are considered to be real in Ayurveda. So what is the ontological framework in Ayurveda? Any idea? Does anybody want to share the idea of what is ontology in Ayurveda? Has it been described in Charaka Samhita or somewhere else? Ontology, has it been discussed in Ayurveda? Is there anyone who wants to answer?
Sir, possibly the Tridosha theory we study in Samhitas and the general principles leading to the Ayurvedic sciences, what we see as the three basic pillars like Upastamba and so many principles like Lok Samya, Purush Siddhant, what I think can be considered as ontological aspects of Ayurveda.
Yeah, of course. But there is a very clearly described framework for ontology. Extensively discussed ontological framework in Ayurveda, and that is nothing but Padartha. Padartha is 6 categories: Dravya, Guna, Karma, Samanya, Vishesha, and Samavaya. And if you go through the slides that I showed you just a few minutes back, all these are simply nothing but Padartha that I explained. Whatever I explained so far are simply Padartha. For example, Sankhya is a Padartha. Category, right? Dravya, postulated entity or maybe real entity. Dravya, right? Or Guna, qualities, as I explained, properties. The color of iris, height. So this is Guna. right? Similarly, functions or processes, fertilization, or several other processes that I explained, they fall under karma, right? The relationship, it falls under samavaya. So we have our own framework of ontology, which has been extensively discussed in Ayurveda, and that is nothing but padartha. So all padarthas, they constitute our ontology. Got it? Right. Next,
Sir?
let me. Yes.
इसमें कुछ लोग हैंड रेज किए हैं, उनका कुछ भी है सर, अभी देख लें कि बाद में करें?
बिल्कुल, मैं मुझे दिखाई नहीं दे रहा है, एक मिनट।
सुमन कादियान जी है, कुछ पूछना चाह रही हैं इस
बिल्कुल
में।
बिल्कुल। हाँ।
सुमन कादिया जी, विश्रुत रावले। आर यू हियर मी? विश्रुत रावले।
I have left Suman Karyan to participate and speak. So if Ms. Suman Karyan is there, they can raise their question over here. And also Vishrut Rawle is there, they can also ask. Yes,
I think, sir, they are not going to respond. We proceed further.
Okay. Sure. No problem.
I think, sir, that should be addressed in question answer session later, else it will create interruptions in between.
Sure.
All right.
Okay, so let me again go back to that. So now the major question that I'm going to ask is, are these ontological entities interoperable? Does science admit dosha, agni, into its ontological framework? This is the question which we have never asked before. On one hand, we say that Ayurveda should be proven, or Ayurveda should be validated, the principles of Ayurveda should be validated, or we also say that there has to be interdisciplinary research. We should join hands with other disciplines, maybe from medicine, pharmacology, all that. But interdisciplinary work or framework, or cross-disciplinary understanding of the subject content can happen only if the ontological entities are interoperable. Does dosha or agni, ojas, is it interoperable? Does science, modern biology, admit these ontological entities into its framework? This is the question that I wanted to ask. A very important question that somehow we have never asked, as far as my knowledge goes. This question has never been asked, but I'm going to ask this. So whenever we talk of integration, we always talk of superficial integration, maybe in terms of integration in clinical scenarios, using one drug of Ayurveda along with some other drug of modern medicine, or maybe using modern diagnostic criteria for our research. But all that is only superficial integration. If you do not think of this foundational integration, ontological integration, without this, I think we will not be able to achieve real integration. This is what the idea, the primary idea that I wanted to float. Again, let us continue. Now coming to epistemology, right? So how do we know what we know? We observe that, we have discussed this, but still, we observe that all insects have 6 legs, 2 pairs of wings, and compounds. From this, we derive the general concept that all creatures with 6 legs, 2 pairs of wings, and compound eyes are insects. We study whether these generalizations are reliable or accidental. Are they based on a representative sample? Can these conclusions be proven to be wrong? How do we know that the next creature with 6 legs, wings, and compound eyes will also be an insect? We consider whether our methods, that is inspection, microscopic observation, observational generalization, conceptualization, reasoning, theory formation, are sufficiently accurate for what knowledge claims we make. And these are the questions of knowledge justification, inference, and reliability of observation. So whatever knowledge claims that we make, how do we justify them? If we say that particular indulgence in Vatavardhaka Ahara Vihara leads to Vata Vriddhi and leads to the symptoms of Vata Vriddhi. And then using opposite features or opposite interventions. For example, Ruksha, Laghu, Shita are the causative factors that causes increase in Vata. If we use opposite strategies like Guru, Snigdha, right? So Sthira, such gunas if we apply, then Vata Shamana should happen. So this is the framework. This is the framework, right? So if we say this, we should be able to justify this knowledge. And this justification of knowledge should stand the test of repeated testing. This should be tested and it should not be falsified. If it gets falsified, then it needs further refinement or maybe abandonment or maybe revision. Theory revision may be required. So all this comes under epistemology, right? So what counts as knowledge? How is knowledge acquired? What are the limits of knowledge? Right? All this. Again, epistemology also varies across domains. For different domains, they use different epistemological methods. For example, philosophy, coherence, logical validity, conceptual clarity. These are the methods or epistemology that philosophy uses. Philosophy is concerned with logical reasoning, conceptual analysis and argument, right? Similarly, religion is concerned with revelation, scripture, tradition, and spiritual experience. So justification is only through faith and authority. Just because in the ancient scriptures something is written, we take it to be true in religion, not in science. Right? In science is concerned with empirical observation, experiment, and theory. And justification is always done using evidence, reproducibility, and predictive success. Right? Evidence, reproducibility, and predictive success. These are certain important features of science. Without this, science will not consider something to be valid. If we say that it is written in Charaka Samhita, hence, Vata Pitta Kapha should be taken as final truth, then science won't accept it. Because science needs evidence, reproducibility, and predictive success. If Tridosha theory can predict, right, certain things which are verifiable, which are very measurable, which are inferable, then science also will accept Tridosha theory as scientific. But have we done any such attempts to verify the theory or to refute the theory or to test the theory at least? Right? In art and literature is concerned with aesthetic insight, expression, interpretation. For example, you watch a movie. When you watch a scene in the movie, all right, everybody should get the same emotion. Then only that the movie is deemed to be successful. If this same scene evokes same emotions in all the people who are watching it, then it means the epistemology of movie making is successful, right? It is reproducible, verifiable, right? But if it evokes different emotions, it means the epistemology is not very strong, right? So that is how even art and literature, there is its own epistemology. So in physics, for example, it uses mathematical formalism, controlled experiments, predictive models. Knowledge is justified if it yields precise, generalizable laws. For example, Newton laws, quantum mechanics, so on. In biology, we use observation, experimentation, comparative analysis. Knowledge is often contextual, historical, and less reducible to universal laws. Because physics is a very, very pure science. Physics is often considered as one of the purest forms of science, where the reproducibility, prediction, inference, all these are very, very precise, very accurate. This accuracy goes on getting diluted as you go from physics to chemistry, chemistry to biology, biology to medicine, medicine to psychology, psychiatry, and then this is a spectrum. This science, and on one hand we have got physics, very pure science. almost perfect science. And on the other end, scholars, they place different things which they consider to be pseudoscience. Sometimes they keep homeopathy, sometimes they keep Ayurveda, or sometimes they keep astrology at other end. Right? Okay, we won't get into this debate as such, but we should know that science, pseudoscience is a spectrum, right? And biology is not as precise science as that of physics. Social sciences, yes, social sciences are kept somewhere, right, nearer to psychology and all that. Karl Popper, if you have gone through the Karl Popper's writings, you will realize that he suspected psychology. He always viewed psychology with suspicion. He didn't consider psychology to be a good, valid science. He always thought its theories could predict or could explain so many contradictory things. The same theory could explain multiple contradictory things, logically contradictory things or events can be explained by a same theory. In such cases, the theory is considered to be very weak, right? So, see, irrefutability is a sign of very weak theory. You might have observed often in our classrooms, our teachers, we try to defend our theories like Tridosha theory. Even if it goes wrong, we will invoke some other explanation and we say that, okay, this is because of this. So when we do this, we rescue the theories, and irrefutability is a feature of weak theory. If we are making our theories irrefutable, then we are admitting that these theories are weak. So this is something we often ignore, right, in our classrooms or even in our academic research, writing, and all that. So what is medicine? Medicine uses epistemology that is pragmatic. If something works, it is taken as valid. If something doesn't work, irrespective of hundreds of logic, it doesn't work, right? It is not a true knowledge. So knowledge is justified if it leads to successful diagnosis, treatment, and healing. So it includes clinical trials, but also clinical judgment. So coming to again, ontology in Ayurveda and epistemology in Ayurveda. What is epistemology in Ayurveda? Any idea? How do we justify knowledge? How do we explain what we know is true? We use pramana, right? For Ayurveda, epistemology is pramana and ontology is padartha, right? So we use anumana, upamana, pratyaksha. So these are the, or yukti, these are the pramanas that we use to validate or to justify the knowledge, right? So in ontology, foundational entities, Panchamahabhuta, regulatory principles, dosha, transformative principles, Agni, vital essence, ojas, dhatu, mala, bodily tissues, microcosm, macrocosm correspondence, the human body mirrors the universe, ontological entities exist at both the levels. So all these are ontologies, right? Health and disease, understood as states of balance or imbalance among these ontological entities. So epistemology in Ayurveda is nothing but pramana. Pratyaksha, anumana, upadesh, aptopadesh, shabda, and upama. So in clinical epistemology, we have yukti, reasoned synthesis for diagnosis and treatment planning. Right? Those who remember, yukti also is a pramana, and yukti is also a guna. Do you remember this? Under 41 gunas. Para yukti sankhya, sayoga vibhaga prathakta. Remember that? So yukti is somehow considered as a guna, and also it is considered as a pramana. So there is some overlap. Yes, is there some question or something? I heard someone saying something. Okay. So validation of knowledge, it is rooted in practical efficiency or efficacy, successful treatment, restoration of balance, coherence with theoretical framework. That's it. Integration of theory and practice. So knowledge is both abstract about existence of dosha, agni, ojas, and empirical observation of physics, behavior, etc. in prakriti. See, prakriti is, for example, it is completely dependent on the observable features. Whereas the for example, Kriya Kala. These are all postulated entities. Vata Pitta Kapha, right? Their increase, decrease, they are inferred using either functions or symptoms. They are as such not visible or measurable. So Vata Pitta Kapha, they are postulated entities and which are admissible. In science also, postulated entities are admissible. But only if they are rigorously defined and only if they have explanatory power or predictive value. So explanatory utility and predictive utility. If these two are there, then anything that you postulate can be admitted into science ontology. But have we tried to rigorously define Vata Pitta Kapha so that they yield testable predictions and testable, do they give testable explanatory framework? I agreed for this invitation not to give you some knowledge. I wanted to ask some questions, ask some of my questions and share those with you so that we can all collectively think and come up with some solution. Right? I have got so many questions, right? And without our community realizing these questions to be important and real, we cannot go ahead. We are stuck. Right? We are teaching the same thing that is repeated in whatever is there in Ayurveda, Charaka Samhita, Sushruta Samhita. It is treated as final. So Aptopadesha, for example, we give a lot of emphasis on Aptopadesha, whereas science doesn't give emphasis on Aptopadesha. Right? The testimony is used in science. It is important, but it is taken as a basis for hypothesis building. But for us, we take Aptopadesha as something final. We need to change our perspective. If we want Ayurvedic theories to be recast as measurable, testable entities, then we may have to reduce the importance given to Aptopadesha and increase the importance given to some other pramanas like Anumana and so on. So interpretability within a domain. Within Ayurveda, ontological entities like dosha, agni, ojas, panchamabhuta are interoperable with each other. Imbalance of dosha disturbs agni, weakens ojas, disturbs dhatu. All that is fine, perfectly all right. This creates a coherent explanatory framework which is self-sufficient within Ayurveda. Similarly, within modern science, ontological entities like genes, enzymes, hormones, cells are interoperable across subfields. Insulin in physiology, insulin in biochemistry, insulin in medicine, it is all same. So they are also internally coherent. Gravity applies equally in physics, biology, and geology, right? But what about interoperability across the domain? Right? So in science, empirical basis, observation, experimentation, logical tools, deduction, induction, abduction, core principles, questioning, doubting, testability, replicability, predictive power, explanatory power. So science always, believes in questioning. There is no place for faith in science. We often say that you should have faith in Ayurveda. If we ask our students to have faith in Ayurveda, we indirectly are saying that Ayurveda is not science. Science doesn't believe in faith. Science always believes in questioning. If we want to make Ayurveda a real science, we should promote questioning. We should ask questioning. We should ask questions. We should ask difficult questions. Is Tridosha theory enough for us? Do we need to revise it? Such questions we need to ask. Without asking such questions, no solution will emerge. So, yeah, shared foundations, as I told you, observation, pratyaksha, inference, anumana, reasoning from evidence, reasoned synthesis, integrative hypothesis building, similar to scientific modeling, yukti, right? All these are shared. But there are some distinct features like authoritative testimony, aptopadesha, accepted in Ayurveda, but not treated as independent warrant in medicine, modern science. Replication and reproducibility, central to science, less formalized in classical pramana theory. Quantification, core to modern science. Ayurveda traditionally relies more on quantitative categories, right? So now comes the central question again, interoperability of ontologies across domains. Ontological entities are not interoperable. Dosha has no exact empirical equivalent in biology. Ojas cannot be reduced to immunity. Agni is not identical to metabolism. So we have seen several conferences, several articles, rheumatology in Ayurveda, neurology in Ayurveda, microbiome is Bhuta Vidya, gut-brain axis, Agni, or infectious diseases as something else, right? Bhuta, Graha Roga, Ama autoimmunity, Prameha diabetes. See, all such equivalents that we draw are actually problematic, because actually we are committing category errors, right? We are inappropriately, misappropriating the ontological entities. We are importing uncritically. We are importing those categories from modern science without having a shared understanding. We don't have a shared understanding. We don't have a shared, parameters. We don't have shared parameters for assessing Agni, right? So this is problematic actually. So when we do this, this is what makes many scientists call Ayurveda pseudoscience. Ayurveda is not a pseudoscience. Let me clarify. Ayurveda inherently is not a pseudoscience. For that matter, the content of any stream of science doesn't constitute pseudoscience. But if we try to defend the content, even after we have seen that there is some mismatch, even if there is, after witnessing that certain theories do not predict, the correct, or maybe the observations go wrong against the predictions. Even in that case, if we keep defending our theories, then people call it pseudoscience. So, for example, Ptolemy, when Ptolemy proposed that Earth is the center of universe, geocentric theory, right? So it was prevalent for many, hundreds of years, and then slowly people realized that actually Earth, revolves around Sun, and it got revised. So Ptolemy's theory was wrong. Then Copernicus' theory came. He also thought that all planets they circle around the Sun, but in a perfect circular path, right? Only after Kepler came in, he proposed that, okay, the observations do not match with the theory. Then Kepler proposed that, okay, the planets move in an elliptical, path. That is how scientific theories evolve. But nobody calls Ptolemy's theory as pseudoscience. Ptolemy's theory was completely wrong, but nobody calls Ptolemy's theories as pseudoscience. But people call Ayurveda pseudoscience. Why? Because we keep defending our theories even when the predictions sometimes go wrong. I can give you some. See, even within Charaka Samhita, Charaka was a very good scientist. He had very good scientific temperament. Whenever he saw that scientific theory predictions went wrong, he modified theories. See, for example, very simple example, let me give you. Vata, Pitta, Chaya. Vata, Pitta and Kapha. Prakopa should happen. When should it happen? Chaya, Prakopa, Prashama, Vayo, Grishma, Adishu, Trishu, Varsha, Adishu, Pittasya, Shleshma, Shishira. This is what we teach our students. But actually, what should have happened? What should have been the theory prediction? It should have predicted that in summer, because of heat, Pitta should have increased. In winters, because of cold and dry weather, Vata should have increased. And because of Kapha should have increased in rainy season because of moist, cloudy nature. But the theory prediction as per Samanya Vishesh Siddhanta should have been something else. But actually what the sutra says is something else. Why? Why do we do this? Because Charaka must have observed that in spring season, because of pollens in the atmosphere, Tamakashvasa, Kapha diseases like Tamakashvasa are more prevalent. In rainy season, even today, the neurological disorders like encephalitis, viral encephalitis and all that are more common in rainy season because of vector-borne illnesses. And in early winter, even today, the problems of peptic ulcer exacerbation are very common. So he must have seen that pitta diseases are more commonly seen in Sharad Ritu, and Varsha Ritu is the season where Vayu Vata Vyadhis are seen, and Vasant Ritu is when more and more Kapha Vyadhis are seen. So when his theory predicted something, and when the observations did not match with his theory, Charaka immediately corrected his theory. There are so many examples I can quote from textbooks, where we get so many examples where whenever there is mismatch between theory and observation, theory was immediately modified. Right? Then new hypothesis was proposed that in winters the kapha gets solidified because of Shita, and in spring when the kapha gets exposed to sunlight, it gets melted and then it causes diseases. See, these are hypothetical explanations. They're not real explanations, right? They are hypothetical explanations, but to fit in with what is observed, the theory modification was practiced in Charaka's times, but we don't do it. Now somebody asks questions about Tridosha theory, we get defensive. But Charaka was not so defensive. He was open-minded. Whenever his predictions went wrong, he almost always, he went for theory correction or theory revision. This is how science should have grown. But unfortunately, we have not gone into the depth of these understandings. Yeah, so I think with this I can conclude. It is already 1 hour, so I should conclude, right? If there are any doubts, let me have those doubts. I'll be happy to explain. Yeah.
Is it Dr. Vedehi Raule to ask some questions? You have put some query. Dr. Vedehi, would you like to ask some question to sir?
Yeah, I'm not asking a question. Sir has asked that related, in between anybody wants to give any answer for that Panchama Bhutya theory.
All
So that time I raised my hand.
All right. All right. No issue.
It is a nice lecture, a total new concept of theory. So a lot of new things to learn also, and this is a view-changing lecture.
Thank you.
Our view is totally changed looking at Ayurveda through this kind of methodology. It's very nice.
Actually, I wanted to share one of our recent works that we are publishing. Maybe I can share over in the chat box, or is there a chat box? Yeah.
सब नीचे है
हाँ ठीक है, मैं दे रहा हूँ. I have shared a link, clinicaltheory.org, where we have been trying to reconstruct the theories of Ayurveda using the ancient methods, using imaginary scenarios, using some cases, using some some other situations, scenarios. We are trying to reconstruct the Ayurvedic theories using the reasoning and tools that were available to Sushruta and Charaka. So there is a classroom where Charaka is teaching, about how the Mutrodpatti takes place. So he uses, the mud pots and all that, those models. So we have tried to recreate those ancient scenes using the ancient logic, not our present day logic. Using those ancient patients, imagined patients, we have been reconstructing this, Ayurvedic theories in this website. So I request all the participants to kindly go through this link, and also wherever they can, please share this link among their students. I have got good responses. Even Dr. Mahendra said he has gone through some of those chapters. We already published around 10 episodes, 10 plus 10, around 20 chapters actually. Yes. So you may like to go through those. Yeah.
It is in our Kriya group, no?
I had shared. Yes, I had shared. Correct.
Yes,
correct. Yeah.
Yes, I also have read them and I have shared it to my PG students. And I also shared today's link. I said this topic is something very new. And you really need to understand where Ayurveda is going into 2025 in future. So,
exactly.
But they are having thesis presentation and also ready for it.
No problem.